What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Nick with Leverage Media, and welcome to another episode of the Ask Dr. Nick show. Super excited to be back in Chicago. I was in San Francisco, or like near San Francisco this week for a seminar, heading out to Scottsdale for a mastermind next week that I'm excited about. Should get some pretty good interviews of people outside of the profession at that one. Two people that I really like and really respect, so I'm excited to bring those to you guys. Did an awesome interview yesterday with Dr. Patrick Gentempo, so we're going to rush that out because the mastermind that I am going to this week is the mastermind that he has, so we're going to get that out next Thursday. I thought that one was really good. Gave some really interesting insights. So, and he's got a book coming out March 17th. It's called Your Stand is Your Brand, which I've heard him talk about that a lot. And I think it's an awesome way for chiropractors to think about content creation. And so if you want to, he was on the interview, he was talking about the pre-order. If you go to gentempo.com, which is GENTEMPO.com, you can pre-order the book and you get a bonus there of a presentation that he did at a mastermind for a group that pays $100,000 to be in the mastermind. So got a lot of good feedback from that, he said. So be sure to go check out that book. I fully support anything Patrick Gentempo does. He was a big influence on me early on and still in my career. So check out his new book. All right. So today, our questions, again, the last couple of weeks, I think it's been better for me to kind of have a theme around the questions. And so this week we're talking about content and really the three different types of content that can be created. So the three different types are video, written, and audio. So that's basically like the videos you do for social media or for YouTube, your blog post, or any books that you write, and then your podcast would be your audio. All right, so let's hop right into this. So we're going to start with video, just because I think people, it's funny because it's the easiest for people to do in terms of like what they think they should be doing, and what I've seen the majority of chiropractors willing to do is video. But then for some people, it's really the hardest to do because they just hate getting on camera. So so we'll start with video. Question one: should I do lives, like Facebook lives, or edited videos? Like when I assume when you post the videos, should you do lives or should you do edited videos? So the lives are okay, I guess. So I'm going to set the stage for you guys for when we talk about Facebook lives or Instagram lives. I've done a lot of strategy sessions at this point, and when I look at people's Facebook pages, I would say that the average Facebook page has anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people that like it. So let's say on the high end, let's say 1,000, right? Now, when Facebook lives came out, they were giving a lot more reach to the Facebook lives than they would to something that you just posted. So the Facebook lives had a lot, I guess, like a lot more relevance because more people would see them. Everybody would get notified. They still do some of that. Like there's still the notifications. They still, I think, show it to a little bit more than they would to just posted videos. But I don't think it's anywhere near what it was when they were really trying to get people used to going live. The reason why I don't think it really matters one way or another, whether you go live or whether you just push out videos that have been edited, is that the lives, so like when you go live or when you post a video, you're going to be showing it to the pool of people that they're going to show it to are the ones that like your page. So let's say that you've got 1,000 people that like your page. If you posted an edited video, it would maybe reach 10 to 15%. So maybe 100 to 150 people. The Facebook lives, those are probably going to reach maybe like 150 to 200 if I had to guess. The thing is like, the point is not for people to be on, especially if it's like a 3 to 5 minute video. No one's going to have time to like get the notification, be on Facebook, go click on it, watch it. So the way that chiropractors create content, video content, I don't think that it's really relevant for Facebook lives, just because a good Facebook live would be a piece of content similar to this, where it's long And so when people get notified, like if they come onto Facebook, 14 minutes after the notification, they can see like, oh, Dr. Nick Silveri is live. They can click on it, and then they can see if I'm still live. They can get in there and ask questions so that I can interact with them in a live way, right? If you're a chiropractor and you're creating, 3 exercises for neck pain, that's probably only going to take like 5 minutes. There's just not going to be enough time for it to attract enough people. And then I do feel like that when people are on lives, that they're more likely to like or heart or comment, which then can get you a little bit more of a viral reach. I just think that lives are really built more for the way that you can get that viral reach. I think that they're really made more for longer pieces of content, like 30 minutes, 1 hour or more. So I just don't think that, and same way with Instagram, it's only going to go out to the people that, and I think actually Instagram does show it to some new people. I don't know. I just don't think that unless you're doing like a 30-minute, like if you're doing like a presentation, then that would probably be a good thing to go live with because it's long enough for people to come in. What I would recommend is if you're doing a longer, like let's say you're doing a workshop in the office, a Facebook Live would be great because most of the people that are on your page are either, people that are patients or maybe have been interested in some of your content before. So it gives them a chance to like kind of dive in deep without having to get up off their couch and come into the office. So I think that something like that would make for a good live. Regular videos, I think you're better off just putting them up as edited videos. And the reason why is because when people go live, they tend not to do as good of a job as they would if they knew that they could take another take. So if you're doing an edited video on 3 stretches to improve your neck pain, if you screw up halfway through, you can just start over. I just think that there's something about live to where it just forces people to just stand there and look at the camera similar to this. And that does not do that well for demonstration type videos. So if it's going to be, under 10 minutes, I would say just do an edited video that you have a little bit more control over. If it's going to be a longer form or like a workshop that you're presenting live, then yeah, that would be a good thing to go live with. So I guess the answer is it all depends. All right. Second question. How long should videos be? So when we're talking about like Facebook content videos, I think the sweet spot is really like 3 to 5 minutes. I think 1 to 2 minutes is just too short of a time to really deliver a lot of value. Now, if you're making things specifically for Instagram, obviously you want to keep it under a minute so that you can get all the content in. But for Instagram, like if you watch people that have, 50,000, 100,000 followers that are like, chiropractors or personal trainers or physical therapists that are doing the types of stuff that we would be doing, they're really like only doing one thing, and they're usually kind of edited. They've got music over it. But it'll be, like the one way to, or the one exercise to do to loosen up your hips. Right. And they just show like one thing. You really can't get into even like, 3 exercises to do for this. It's like, you're pretty much just showing the one thing. Most people are going to be more focused on Facebook, and I think they should be. So those for Facebook, I think 3 to 5 minutes is kind of like the sweet spot. But, the question was, how long should my videos be? The real answer is as long as they need to be. So if something needs to go 7 minutes because you're getting in there and you're really explaining things and you're providing value, the people that are going to watch, I don't think that anybody looks at a video and, sees that it's 4 minutes or 6 minutes or 7 minutes long and is like, oh, I have no time for that. If it's something that they find valuable, if it's a piece of content or a topic that they're interested in, I think they'll sit and watch. Now, if it's 30 minutes, if it's an hour, yeah, they may have to like make a decision on if they have time for it. But I think if it's a few minutes long, anybody will watch it. It all comes down to, whether that's relevant to them or not. So for Facebook, 3 to 5 minutes. YouTube is, if you're making stuff specifically for YouTube, longer form is usually better. I've heard that 10 minutes is kind of the sweet spot for 10 to 20 minutes is kind of the sweet spot for YouTube. But again, you know, YouTube, their algorithm is really based on like length of consumption. So it needs to, you don't want to just stretch it out just for the sake of stretching it out. All right. All right. Second type of content is going to be the written form. So this is mainly going to be blog, but this could be, you know, copywriting for your web pages. This could be copywriting on your Facebook posts, but we'll focus mainly on like these questions are about blogs. But so the main type of content that you'd be creating in written form is going to be your blog posts. All right. How often should I be posting a blog to my website? So most chiropractors are at 0, like they don't do any blog posts, and they're just so important in terms of Google seeing your website as relevant. Some people like me, like I really like to read things, and not even so much read things. I like to scan things versus watching videos. And so for some people, they love watching video. I would much rather, like, I can just quickly get the gist of a blog post just by scanning it. So the two types of content I like to consume are written form and audio. Audio because I can do it passively. Like a lot of people, the most feedback I get from this podcast is, or I'm sorry, of my content is from the podcast. And it's because people can listen to it in the car. They don't have to sit there and look at their phones to watch a video. So I'm a big fan. Personally, I love listening to podcasts. And then I like reading things mainly because I can just scan things and just get the gist of it. So how often you should be posting? The blogs are really, you know, honestly, they're probably more for Google than they are for, you know, the reading general public. You just want to make sure that you're being seen as relevant. You've got more keywords on your web page, and that you can organically show up when somebody is searching for something if the blog is set up correctly. So the ideal cadence of posting is in my opinion is once a month. I think that once a week or once a day is probably more than you need to do. Only because because we're local businesses, Google doesn't crawl our sites that often. So the fact that if they're not crawling it more than, you know, maybe once every couple of weeks or once a month, then posting every day or every week is probably a little bit more than it needs to be. And also it's like, you got to make sure that you can actually get it done. Now, if you love writing blog posts, it's like, sure, like you could do once a week. But I think for the vast majority of, you know, normal chiropractors that are out there that aren't like dying to get up and write a blog post, I would say that once a month is probably the right cadence for you. And again, if you're doing a blog post every month, every year, eventually you're going to have a ton of content, lots of pages on your site that Google can show to relevant search terms. So, and remember, you're competing against, in terms of Google, like when they're doing search terms for like neck pain doctor, you know, your town and state, you're really just competing against other local practitioners in the area. And hardly any of them are doing anything, especially in like a less than 1 million person city. There's just not a lot of people doing much content, especially written. So once a month, I think, is a good amount of time. All right. Let's see. Question number 4. How long do my blog posts need to be? So just to kind of give you some context on how you should be thinking about your blog post. So there's a lot of, you know, websites in a box that will say that they'll do your blog for you. But they know, just like I know, and you probably know, that duplicate content is not good. And they have, you know, there are companies out there that have thousands of chiropractors that are using their sites, and the blogs that they put onto the pages are, you know, just like duplicates of the ones that they put on, you know, the other guys. Sometimes they have like other people in your town that are literally like getting the same blog. Now they may have, like, if somebody's in the same town, maybe they only put, you know, blog A up for this one, and blog B up for that one, and blog C up for the other one. But they're not like, you're getting they don't even list it with Google. They don't want Google to, or at least they should not be doing that, because Google will ding you for duplicate copy, because they'll think that you're like copying somebody else. So the other problem with those is, you know, if somebody does land on it, they're they're usually like 200 words long. There's really no value in them whatsoever. They're really poorly written. And they're like, what Google doesn't like, Google's whole job is to sell. Well, their mission is to organize the world's information, but their business plan is to sell ads. So in order to sell more ads, they need people to always come back to Google to get the answers to their questions. The only way that you're going to keep coming back to Google is if the answers that they give you when you do a search term are accurate, that they're relevant, that they're something that you find valuable. So if somebody was looking for a chiropractor and they kept bringing back like dentists and oil change places, that would not be relevant to the searcher. So what you want to do with your blogs is you want them to be something of real value. If someone does do a search, like say somebody does a search for neck pain doctor or treatment in city and state, and your blog actually pops up, if they click on your blog and they look at it and it's 2 paragraphs long and they can tell that there's nothing really of value there, and they just go and click the back button, that shows Google, oh, okay, well, we thought this might be relevant because of the keywords that are in it. But obviously, if that happens enough, they'll say, obviously, this isn't that relevant, and they'll start to drop it further down the list as the algorithms change. So the biggest thing is getting people to not only click on it, which is a whole thing. You got to have a good headline. You got to have a good title that's going to grab them and get that click-through rate. But then you also need to, once they're on there, you need to, try to keep them there, because one of the biggest signals for Google on relevancy is dwell time. So how long is someone staying on this page once they've clicked on it? If they're staying on it for 2 seconds, that's very different than if they're staying on it for 2 minutes. If they're staying on it for 2 minutes, that means that there's something of value there, and they're going to want to show that more and more and more. So you want to be sure that so the question was, how long do they need to be? Again, as long as they need to be, but 1,000 words is really the minimum that I recommend. The average blog post length that's on the first page of Google, like just across the internet, is 1,800 words. So for a local chiropractor, I think 15 is probably pretty good, but minimum of 1,000. And to do 1,000-word blog, it takes about an hour. It's not a lot of time to do it, but you need to make sure that not only is there something there of value, but then anything you can do to keep them on the page. So we recommend putting, videos in the blog, so that if somebody's reading along the blog and then you have a video that kind of explains this thing that you just talked about, they can watch a 3-minute video that's going to keep them on the page a lot longer. Obviously, the videos need to be relevant to what the blog is about, but so 1,000 words would be my minimum that I would recommend. All right. Third type of content is going to be audio. So these questions are about a podcast for practice. Like I said, I just think that as I've been doing this podcast, I've gotten such great feedback, and I feel like the people that opt in for like strategy sessions with me, a lot of them are starting to say that they found me through the podcast. So that's been a really good, and that it's probably the thing that I get the most feedback on is the podcast versus the video or any blogs that we do. All right. So first question is, what kind of mic do I need? So this is one of the things that I think ties people up when it comes to podcasts and videos, is they worry too much about the tech. Like, what camera should I use? What lights do you use? What mic should I use? So this mic it's called Shure, like SHURE, and it's a SM7B mic. But honestly, like, I don't know if this sounds any different than if I recorded it on my phone. So the reason I got this is because these are the mics that Gary Vee uses. So I figure if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. But also because I do a video of this, and I'll do videos of like interviews. So I want them to look professional, and these look professional. But literally, if I was just doing an audio with no video, I would probably just use my cell phone. Like, I feel like as long as you're in a room that's kind of quiet, that has some carpet, that isn't too echoey, that the audio is just fine. So they've got much cheaper mics than this. Like this one was expensive. You could probably get, I think, what do they call them? Like Blue Yetis or something Yeti mic. They're like cheap. They're like $100 maybe. Like they are a Snowball. I can't remember. There's a million of them on Amazon. The ones we had before this, I want to say they were like $100, and they're the mics that I use to record like the intro to the podcast. And I think that it turned out great. Like the audio sounded fantastic. So don't worry much about the mic. A lot of times when I am in a quiet place and if I don't want to bring all of my equipment with me for an interview, I'll just use my camera, and the audio picks up just fine as long as it's a quiet place. If like I'm at an expo or something and I'm doing an interview, I need the mics because it needs to like filter out the background noise. So as long as you have a controlled space, your phone is probably just fine. Let's see. Oh, and the other thing, so I'm sorry, going back to like the video stuff, that's another thing. Like you just don't, like the phones, the phones now with the cameras that they have, you just don't need a lot of like fancy stuff for what you need to do as a chiropractor. Like people are just not going to expect you to have like the most advanced professional cinema quality video that they've ever seen. So I do not get tight. Just start getting it done. Once you start doing it, just like with this, once I started doing it, I'm like, I need to get a better mic. Like this, we're going to be doing this every day. So like, let's get a better mic. Sometimes I use the mic in my computer. Sometimes I use the mic in the phone. Sometimes like all of my videos, those are all like the audio for those are just from the phone. Cause I'm just doing like selfie style videos. So just don't get caught up in it's way more important to get started than it is to worry about what the perfect piece of technology is. All right. The last question, number 6, is, should I do interviews or talk mainly about chiropractic or health topics? So the podcasts that I do see, that chiropractors do, I feel like they talk a lot about chiropractic and health, and I just don't know if people are that interested in it. So for me, like I'm trying to think of a good example, like a good analogy of like my brand. I feel like a lot of the value that comes from this podcast are the interviews with other people. So I feel like I try to do a pretty good job of putting myself in the position of the listener and trying to pull things out that I would want to know if I was listening. And I try to think about it the way I was back at this point in my career, or where I'm at now, so that it's not always because a lot of the people that I interview, I already know them and I already know some of the answers to the questions, but it's more about the people that that are listening, that I'm trying to pull value out for them. It's not always information that I want to know because I may already know it. Right. So I think a lot of the value is bringing on other experts onto this. If it was just always me talking about, content creation or marketing, or like, there would be some people that might be interested in it, but I think that it helps because I have different types of content that we do for the podcast. I think that helps with, the variety of it helps attract different audiences. Right. The interviews also allow you to, it allows you to network with other people. It also allows you access to groups that you may not have been privy to otherwise. So being able to interview all of these people that I have, when we post it, I'm usually pretty good about like thanking them for their time and tagging them in the comments. And then sometimes they share it and so that opens up me to their audience. And I'm terrible at it. I'm not even that good. Like when I do, when I'm interviewed on podcasts, they're always asking me like, hey, do this, and this. And I'm awful about it in terms of like telling them what they should do. It's like, if they want to share it, that's great. That's awesome. But if they don't, it's like, I don't like tell them that they should they should or shouldn't do it. So, but the interviews I think are really valuable. I do think that I still think that a lot of people would listen to this just because chiropractors, there's a certain subset that really are interested in marketing and content and all of that. So I do think that I could get listeners if that's all I ever talked about and if it was just me. But as a chiropractor, I just don't know if there's enough people out there that really care a lot about chiropractic and about, how chiropractic helps with this condition and that condition. And that's the real trick, is that when you're talking about specific conditions, if somebody does listen to your podcast and they just don't have that condition, they're not interested in talking about it. So what I like for a local podcast is either to basically just be like, a podcast where you interact with other influencers in the community, and or pick a specific avatar, like, moms or CrossFit athletes or triathletes, or like whatever your like ideal patient is. And then everything is built around the things that they want to learn about. So like my podcast is built around chiropractors that want to grow $1 million practice. Now, sometimes that's about marketing, but other times that might be about mindset. Like, I don't really talk that much about mindset, but I know that that's like when I bring on Fred DiDomenico or Patrick Gentempo, they're going to talk more about who you are as a person than like tactics to move forward through the stages of growing $1 million practice. So I try to think of, all right, if I'm, in that first stage, that 0 to 250, who do I want to hear from? At 250 to 500, who do I want to hear from? 500 to $1 million, who do I want to hear from? Over $1 million, who do I want to hear from? And I try to find people at different, like chiropractors at different stages to interview, so that so that everybody can get value out of it. And but my market, the avatar that I'm looking for, is somebody who's trying to grow a practice. Like, not that growing $1 million practice is the end all be all of your life as a chiropractor, but those are like my ideal clients, the ones that are looking to grow. So that's where I'm going to think about what type of content either I should create or people that I should interview. So I would not recommend doing a podcast just around chiropractic. I would do a podcast if you do want to stay focused in on, like, you're going to be the person who's creating all the content and doing all the talking, then I would think of an avatar and I would create content for that avatar, versus, because there is no avatar of like people that are dying to know more about chiropractic. Like, that just doesn't exist at a large enough number to make it worth your time. But there are enough people in your area that do CrossFit. There are enough moms in your area to make it worth it. So you want to make it relevant to that avatar. So hopefully this helped with some of the so kind of like how I think about the different types of content that's out there. You've probably heard me, if you've listened to this podcast very much, is just start getting it done. Like, just start doing it, because what I have found is, take my brand, for example, the 𝐷Rnick brand. So I've had the agency, which is a content marketing agency for chiropractors, since January 1st, 2017. So it's been a little bit over 3 years now. And I must have met, I bet I've met with my team 20 times about getting started with the content, but I always made it always had to be, because I'm just kind of a perfectionist like this, I had to do all of it to get started. So what ended up happening is I didn't get started. So we kept talking about it and talking about it and talking about it and meeting about it and wasting time about it. And then finally, we had the Gary Vee interview, and I was like, that's going to be the thing that I'm going to use as my excuse to get started. We got started. I committed to a daily podcast. So I was like, okay, we got to figure out how to make content every day. So I came up with the different types of content, and now it's like, we're doing it. We're still perfecting it. We've gotten better with like the equipment or the setup or how I travel with things, so that I can get more content when I'm away from Chicago. But also the content itself has kind of evolved, because I'm like, I think this would be better this way or that way. We're just now going to start adding the blog in, so that we're doing a weekly blog. All of those things have just been an evolution over time, versus I started out doing it exactly the way it has just evolved, but getting started with it, forcing myself, like painting myself into a corner where I'm like, okay, I got to do a daily podcast. All right, let's start. I got to get interviews. I got to make videos. I got to do this. I got to do that. So it's still, I still have to, sometimes I get behind, and I'm trying to be better about like getting things done ahead of time. And I'm way better at it now than I was when we first started. But had I not started, I wouldn't be trying to perfect it. And that's the thing that I tell chiropractors is you just have to get started with it. Once you get started with it, if you're anything like me, you won't want to keep doing something that's ineffective. You won't want to keep doing something that's poorly done. So you'll just eventually like start to get better and better and better at it. And then that's when you start to get results, but you got to stick with it. You got to be consistent with it. And, find the thing that you like to start with. So if you like writing, start with the blog. If you love being on video, do that. If you like interviewing people, start with the podcast. Start with one, then expand out. So like we started with video, like I've been doing video for a long time for my office. So that was never a problem for me. Then I added in the podcast for this. And so now I've got video and podcast, and now we're going to start doing the blog. So now we're going to, and there might be things that we add on, in the future, but the only way that you're going to start perfecting is if you actually start doing and kind of screwing up and looking at the metrics and seeing, what people have liked, what they haven't, kind of listen for feedback for it. So hopefully this helps. Get started. Don't be a perfectionist like I was, that like keeps you from doing stuff. And if you need any help, let me know and we can talk more about that. All right. Hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you on the next one.